With yay.
Well, that might help.
All right, so allegedly, and the nice thing is I don't have to do the camera switching now because Skype, since we're using the Hangout audio, Hangouts will do that.
Yay!
Oh my gosh, I have 8 megs at home. It was amazing. I downloaded stuff and there was no buffering. I was like, oh, this is so sweet.
But
This is
still,
what everyone
it's
else
to do a
feels
podcast
like.
from there.
It can't guarantee it's going to be quiet for the whole show.
Is it asynchronous, up and down?
No, well, I don't think so. It's supposed to be, but I was getting like maybe 2 at the best.
Yeah. So it's supposed to be, but it's not?
Honestly, I don't know. I don't remember.
Yeah, okay. All right, audio check sounds fine. We're all here. I say we just record this thing and see what happens.
Fire it up.
Go ahead and preemptively cycle the power on my machine.
Starting recording now.
Oh, we're recording already?
Well, might as well. If we're not Skyping it.
Well, but the longer I record, the longer it takes it to upload.
No, I'm ready to go.
Oh, okay. Then I am recording as well.
We're just going to fake this thing. Okay. I should have said any comments or anything before I go live, but we didn't. But I think we have a fair amount of stuff. We'll just go through it and riff like we do.
Okay.
All right, here we go. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Everyday Linux, episode 216, Geeks in Space! Recorded November 29th, 2015, and brought to you by Element OP Productions. ElementOP.com. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to the Linux show that's not about Linux, but about life in the context of Linux. I am your host, Mark, the Sultan of the Soapbox Cockerel, and joining me this week, as always, are your two stalwart co-hosts, Chris, the Command Line Godfather Neves, and Seth, the Gooey Kid Anderson. Hello, gentlemen!
Hello, everyone out there in internet land. I hope you had a great week and ready for the crazies.
And welcome back from your tryptophan-induced comas to life. A lot of us have to go to work Monday as of the recording of this show.
Yes. So what we're doing, as we did toward the end of the year last year, we did the history of the communications thing, and that was well received. And so what we're going to do this week, the topic is, by the way, if you got the intro, you are of a certain age, and you watch the Muppet Show. This is all about the things in our life that we see every day that come directly from our exploration of space. Not a timeline thing necessarily, but just hopefully some interesting stuff. So there you go. That is the titular topic of the show, but as you know, we shall do much more than that. But first, as Seth mentioned, we just came away from Thanksgiving. This is the Sunday after, so the tryptophan hangover is coming off. Actually, that's such a myth. There is tryptophan in turkey, but very little, about the same amount as in that bucket of fried chicken or those McDonald's chicken nuggets that nobody says puts you to sleep. It's really the starches, because you stuff yourself with starches which require energy and your body shuts down to digest them. So there you go, myth busted.
Oh, another one bites the dust.
Man, you're hating on me already.
So I trust you guys had a good Thanksgiving. We just the family, my 5 and my mom, so the 6 of us, and we were a little tight on the food. We only had enough food to feed about 30 people for our 6.
Only 30?
But we managed to make it through. I only made 2 turkeys. 1 turkey instead of the usual 2, but we did manage to make it through.
Well, at least you made it through. That's all that matters, right, Mark?
I did buy some turkey legs with the intention of smoking them. We were going to have some fried, some smoked, but it just didn't happen, and so that's fine.
Yeah, it all works out one way or the other.
Who are you? What have you done with Mark?
Thanksgiving is, at least in America, it's all about the meal. You can say it's about giving thanks. We have all kinds of holidays that are about other things, but Thanksgiving it's about one meal and the leftovers. I think most people enjoy the leftovers more than the meal, because when you eat the leftovers, the relatives are gone.
That's right. Or if they never showed up at all, like in my case, I was supposed to have relatives for the week, and things happened, and I didn't have any relatives, so it was a exceptionally quiet Thanksgiving week for me, except for being on call. But it is what it is.
Somebody's got to do it. A friend of mine works for a large big box retailer. I shall not name what. And of course, the day after Thanksgiving in the U.S. is what's known as Black Friday, and essentially it's women be shopping time. So he was on call for all the Black Friday madness. I think there's the tech guys who do all the online stuff. A Cyber Monday is sort of allegedly the big day when everybody goes back to work and then does their Christmas shopping online is the big thing. But I think that Black Friday is hardest on the tech guys and the security guards.
Oh, I would guarantee that one.
Yeah, oh, definitely.
And the traffic cops.
Yeah, probably the traffic cops. You never see very many up here in southern Canada, so.
So we went to the movies, went to see the Peanuts movie. I gotta say, if you enjoyed the old classic Peanuts movies, the Charlie Brown Christmas and that sort of stuff, this is fine. This was an homage to those in so many ways. And in fact, in a lot of ways, they missed the opportunity to make a better movie because they were so busy trying to recreate nostalgia, which is fine. It is what it is. But, there were certain limitations that Schultz had to deal with in the 60s that we don't have anymore. And they chose to keep some of those limitations. But if you got kids, if you have a heart, it's a fine movie. So there's my quick review of it. But the point is, we happened to turn down a street where the mall is to get to the movie theater. And as soon as I made that left turn, I went, oh, crap. What a terrible thing I just did. Because I could have gone up another exit and gone around the back way. It would have been fine. But once I committed to that left turn, I was there.
Yep.
And it was like 50 minutes to go a mile because we had to get past the mall. And it was like 3 lanes of the 4 lanes were left turn lanes. They had actually converted them to left turn only lanes, or right turn in the case to get
really?
Just insane. Stop it, people.
Yeah, it's not worth it anyway. Most of those Black Friday sales are just last year's markdown. So, wow.
So, Seth, how about you? Anything interesting over your break? I hope you got a break.
Yeah, actually, we had this potluck on Tuesday. Oh, there was so much food. Oh, there was so much food. So there was really no work happening in the office Tuesday afternoon because everybody partook of at least enough food for 3 people. And then Wednesday, they let us go at 1, and then I was off Thursday and Friday. So pretty cool. And free HBO preview weekend, so I watched some crappy movies that I didn't get to see when they were in the movie theater.
Oh, okay. So anything in particular?
Not really. I got to see The Kingsman finally. I had wanted to see that,
I'm sorry.
and I didn't
I'm sorry
make it.
that you had to see that. I
thought it was a decent movie. I thought it was decent.
It was a cheesy-ish kind of, I like those kind of movies. It was not high quality, but it was enjoyable.
See, I felt that it fell into that sort of the uncanny valley. It wasn't bad enough to be bad, but it wasn't good enough to be good.
Right. It wasn't bad.
But see, I did not like the Skyfall James Bond because that wasn't a James Bond movie. But that's why it made the most of any James Bond movie ever. But Kingsman was in that kind of, you had the gadgets and the stuff like that. So it was, like I say, not high quality, but it was enjoyable. So. Rick
in the chat room thinks it was hilarious, so I am officially outnumbered 3-1.
Ha-ha!
I'm okay with that. I guess I was just expecting more. Lawrence, not Lawrence Fishburne, the other one,
Samuel Jackson.
Samuel L. Jackson was great, playing the comedic bad
awesome.
guy. Yeah, I just felt that there just wasn't enough for the rest of the movie.
Yeah, it was kind of a thin movie, that's for sure.
Yeah, I have a question about the Peanut movie, Mark. You had mentioned like the last TV special they did, how it wasn't really the Peanuts, it was like a weird attitude. So you're saying that wasn't in this movie?
No, yeah, this was totally. This one was done by his kids, by Charles Schulz's kids. And if you don't know, if you've read any thing, he associated himself, identified with Charlie Brown, and he considered himself a loser who couldn't do anything right for his entire life. And this whole movie was essentially an affirmation that Charles Schulz was a good guy, and by way of showing us that Charlie Brown is a good guy. Positive message, enjoyable, but just, I want to come. It sounds like I'm coming off that it's bad. It wasn't bad. It just could have been better had they had a different agenda. Their agenda was not to make a good movie. Their agenda was to do an homage to Charles Schulz. So as it is, great. But in the world of Pixar and people who are making good movies, it just didn't. It's just not a good movie. It's an homage to Charles Schulz. And maybe if it makes enough money, they'll go back later and make a good movie with those characters.
Well, we can hope that. I mean, I'm looking forward to seeing it with my kids because my daughter is a die-hard Peanuts fan.
In my estimate, it's a DV rental or Netflixer over a movie. There's nothing you have to see in the theaters. There's no great visuals. There's nothing that you have to experience on a 50-foot screen.
Yeah. But I know for a fact that it'll be here for a week. So
yeah, and
unless you want it to make money, so they make more of them.
Yeah, there is that too. It just. For example, there were literally, not figuratively, literally exact lines, the lines that you loved. Lucy saying, "Oh, I've been kissed by a dog, get the disinfectant." Those exact vignettes were dropped into this movie. And the only reason you would do that is to tickle the nostalgia bone. It doesn't actually fit the thing. And most of those things were just little vignettes, little 2 or 3 minute bits that were loosely pieced together around a storyline. That's what this was, 2 or 3 minute bits. 90 minutes of them, and it just got a little tedious for a grown-up.
Good to hear, though. Good to know. So that way, when I go to walk in, I know not to, keep my hat on too tight. I just should let it sit back and enjoy the ride.
Right. Just enjoy the nostalgia of it because that's all it is. A bit of note, I've talked many times about the Zcast app, formerly the the Everyday Linux app, that has now branched out and become a general-purpose podcast player. Still not available in the Android store because because Google Play, rather, the Play market is sort of hostile toward beta stuff, and I get that. I get why they wouldn't want beta stuff in their world, but so it's hosted right now only on my site. So go to elementop.com, click any of the recent show notes. There's the EDL app link or the Zcast app link. They all go to the same place. So whichever one you do, it goes to the same thing, and I just replace that every time there's an update to the APK. Major updates. I think I mentioned it before. Multi-speed playback is now a thing. So if those of you who like to play at faster speeds, and as of just this week, you can now add any app. It's not restricted by app, or any feed. So you can search the iTunes Store, find your feeds, drop them in there, and then as they become comment enabled, that feature will be turned on the server side. So we're still working on how to interact with the feed owners to make sure that they're comment enabled. But the general idea is that you would install the app, and that maybe in a version or two down the line, there will be a submit this for commenting button that would parse the RSS feed for the owner of the podcast, which you're required to do on iTunes. Send them an email, chain mail, or form letter rather, saying this is what it is. Reply here for yes. Ignore this or no. And then when they say yes, he flips the bit on the server side, which turns on commenting. So that's all in the future. But right now, the cool thing is it can be your full-on podcast app. It doesn't because it's no longer restricted to just a few things. So really excited about the way it's going. Still in beta, still danger, may cause your teeth to fall out, but check it out. I'm using it now as my everyday podcast player. It's still got glitches, but it's good enough that I have supplanted Beyond Pod, which you all know that I have loved for years. So that says something.
Yeah, that is a pretty blaring and happy recommendation there, Mark. That you gave it, that you gave everything up for it. So cool.
Of course, I have a vested interest in it, but the more people we have using on it, the more people we have submitting bug reports, the better it's going to get.
Yep.
Okay, that's all I had to say about that. I did want to. I know I don't want to take this intro too long. We're already way long, but I have. Did I mention on this show that I got a new Moto 360 second gen watch?
I don't remember.
I don't think I did. I mentioned it on the other show, Android App Addicts. Check that one out, podnuts.com. I was walking along, minding my own business, and like a big goofy guy does, accidentally slammed my wrist into a pillar at work and cracked the screen on my first gen Moto 360.
Oh.
But I had bought the Best Buy, if your kid flushes it down the toilet, we'll replace it, no questions asked, warranty on it when I got, actually my wife did when she got it for me for Christmas. So I went back and was just going to do a swap out. But they didn't have the new model, the old model in the store. I could have gone to another store that did. I could have waited. I could have sent it back, but I'm impatient and my baby was damaged. So I went ahead and paid the $100 upgrade fee to get the new version. So essentially I got the second gen, which the initial cost difference right now, like if you go buy a first gen now, you can get one for like $150, but the second gens are running for $350. But since I'd initially paid $250, basically I paid the $100 to get a second gen watch.
That's not bad.
I just want to say all the problems I had with the first gen are solved in the second gen. All of them. So
cool.
If any reservations you may have had, any bad press you may have had about the first one, and admittedly the first one was a first generation, problem solved. A couple of the things that I always complained about was they're weird. The thing spends more time off than on, the display, and that was for battery. And it had sort of an ambient, it was called ambient, but it really meant it's going to be on more often, but it's not really on all the time. And when you switch that on, your already bad battery life went to terrible. The Apple Watch is having the same problem. The Apple Watch spends more time off than it does on. With this next one, they nearly doubled the size of the battery. That problem is fixed, and they've added an always-on feature. So my watch now goes into a I can't really show it in my setup here, to a dim mode. So it does dim the screen, which is good. Really. And depending on the settings of your watch face, can actually display an entirely different watch face when it's in that mode. But in that dim mode, it's on all the time. So my biggest complaint was I'm sitting in a meeting. I couldn't just glance down at my watch to see what time it was. I had to ring my wrist up and activate the accelerometer to see it. That problem is solved. Secondly, even with it in always-on mode, I'm getting 20-hour days with battery left over.
Yay!
Problem solved.
Yeah.
So yeah, if you had any reservations about it, I don't have any experience with the Huawei or the LG Urbane. I know those are things, but I can tell you that the Moto the Moto 360 second gen is the best. Well, I can't say it's the best because I haven't tried the others. It no longer has any reason for you not to buy it.
It's still a pretty good review. I like it. Don't think I'll ever pay for it, but I like it.
Yeah, and it's fine. If you're the $50 Timex for 10 years guy like I was before, then $350 for a watch is ridiculous. But if you're going to buy a Citizen or a Seiko, you're going to spend $350 easy. This is a Citizen that you're going to replace every couple of years. So you just know that going in. If everything works perfectly, that battery's going to die in 6 years maybe at the most, at the outside, probably less. And you're going to have to get a new one. So just, make those intelligent choices. But if you want a smartwatch, I can now, without reservation, say that the Moto 360 is the one.
Cool.
The flat tire bothers some people, that little edge of the flat part of the screen where they put the light sensor. It doesn't bother me, and in fact, I really appreciate the fact that it senses the light around me and adjusts the brightness of the screen. So when I'm in a movie theater or a darkened meeting room with a projector on, it automatically dims, and I don't have to tell it to. The other watches, as far as I know, that don't have the flat tire have that problem. So you're constantly fiddling with it. For me, that's a trade-off worth having.
Or just not have a $350 watch.
Yeah, fine. All right, one last thing. I had to do some laptop or some desktop repair this week because every guy who's ever repaired a laptop says take it out once a year, twice a year at the most, blow it out get the dust bunnies out because dust is the #1 killer of PCs in the world. Well, my machine finally was getting to the point where it would run for a couple of minutes and shut down. Classic overheat symptoms. I pulled it out. It was the second dirtiest machine I've ever seen in my life. The CPU fan was so caked with dirt that I couldn't get it clean. I'm just going to buy a new one. Short of taking it out and dunking it in some sort of liquid solution, it was not going to come clean. No amount of blowing or sucking or anything was going to fix that. But coolers are $8. Amazon Prime rocks, so another one will be here in a couple of days. But unfortunately, the dirtiest one I'd ever seen was also one of mine. So don't do as I say, not as I do. But you, Chris, had a similar experience, but only with a laptop, right?
Yeah, I don't remember if I told everybody or not, but when I took my new job, I had to close the home business. But I had a friend of mine who said, "Oh God, please, 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 can you help me? My laptop is acting it won't charge anymore, blah, blah, blah." So I'm like, all right, yeah, I'll take care of it. I'll pop it open and see what I can do. I forgot how bad I hate taking apart laptops. They are disgusting. This is a guy who doesn't eat over his laptop or nothing, but it was still the most disgusting, well, not the most disgusting, but one of the most disgusting laptops I've ever pulled apart. Animal hair, dander, and everything else, human dander and everything else all over the thing. Oh, just thinking about it makes me
freak, and they still end up looking like that.
Oh yeah, I know, but that's my point. Laptops are horrible. Make sure that if you are at least some tech savvy person, when it comes to your laptop, take them outside and dust them. Take it, just do it. It's disgusting not to. No matter how clean you are, that's always going to be gross.
Your advice: you're going to have some time coming up over the holidays. Take some time and maintain your machines. Don't be like me, and maintain your machines. A can of air, take it outside because it's going to be terrible. I know it sucks crawling under the desk and reaching around and disconnecting all that stuff. That's why you haven't done it, but just do it. And Chris, actually, I had never heard this advice, but it's a good one. When you change your smoke alarm batteries, clean your PCs.
Yep, it makes it simple to remember. And then it's usually, at least up in my area, the weather changes so drastically that you never want to take it outside when it's as cold, that you could freeze, if you hock a loogie. So, I always do it when I do the batteries because of the simple fact that it's still fairly nice out.
Time change is another good thing. That's twice a year that you'll do it.
Mm-hmm. And then... Go ahead.
I was going to say, guys, here's what you do. Whenever you're doing house cleaning day and the wife or girlfriend is like doing all of you're like, okay, I will clean the computer. So you take them out to the garage, blow them out, and that could take a couple of hours to do it right, especially if you've got a laptop. So you're cleaning the computer, preventative maintenance to keep it going longer and to keep that smooth experience, and then your wife is cleaning the house. So, but y'all are splitting the work amicably.
I like it. You could even then add in the refrigerator coils and the TV. You could take them down and dust them out if you really wanted to avoid house cleaning work. Because I know that was one of the things that my dad would do religiously. He would clean the refrigerator coils. Just one of the things he started doing, and my mom still has the refrigerator that we bought when I was a little one. So
that's actually kind of a downside. Like the TV, if you maintain it, you don't have an excuse to upgrade.
True.
All right, let's get on some listener feedback. We just got one this week. Andy is yet another in the long line of Firefox haters among us. He says, in your last episode, you mentioned that you have had no issues with Firefox. Are you sure? I'm a long-time Firefox user since the beginning. I run Linux Mint 17 and do regular updates to all packages. A couple of months ago, I noticed a lag. Page would load fine, but would be 3 or 4 seconds before I could scroll. Videos also seemed to take longer to start playing. I ran a speed test on my connection and was only getting 67 megabits on my 15 megabit DSL. I tried the same test on my phone via Wi-Fi and got the full 15. I tried the same test on my Linux machine using Chrome and got 15. Firefox wouldn't read over 7 meg even with all the extensions turned off. I only use LastPass and AdBlock anyway. I don't know what the issue is, but for now, I've had to resort to using Chrome. Andy, I'm not going to dispute what you have to say, but again, that's not my experience.
Nor mine. I've pretty much gotten off my Chrome kick or Chrome addiction and moved back to Firefox. And the only reason I keep Chrome installed on my computer is for the Hangout, because I don't like the way Firefox handles Hangouts. But that'll be going away soon as I find a better solution for Hangouts in Firefox.
I generally do Google stuff in Chrome, everything else in Firefox. So my Gmail, my Google Docs, those sort of things open in Chrome. Everything else opens in Firefox. And I stand by it. Linux Mint 17, same thing. Running Firefox. I've got the 64-bit. I assume you do too. Firefox is fine. I don't notice several seconds. Maybe I'm just slower. Maybe I don't need to jump to a page and scroll immediately. Maybe the reason is our habits more than our technology. But just could be. I don't have that issue.
The other thing that could be in there is if he only says he only has 2 add-ons, but what about themes? If there's an animated theme, that could be slowing the Firefox browser down a lot too.
Yeah, it's possible. I don't think I've ever installed a Firefox theme. Well, actually, I did where I used to work. I put a work-generated theme with our colors and stuff, but me personally, just not something I care about.
I just don't like the gray.
Let me take an opportunity to tell you about some of our fine sponsors, specifically the LinuxAcademy.com. They will take you from being a person who knows some stuff about some stuff to a person who has the credentials and the skills to be Linux certified. They do this by the way of step-by-step video courses designed for beginners. That's the nice thing about it. You don't have to be a guru to get there. They're supposed to take you to be to the point of being a guru. And they have hundreds at least of courses now of different videos. And everything's broken down in, college syllabus sort of style. There's a course. There's all of the courses are then in a module. So think of a module as like a track. I want to head this way. I want to be LPIC certified. And then there are courses within that module, and then there are classes within that or lessons within that course. And all of those things can be tracked by their online system. They have this great lesson plan thing that will generate for you. You tell them when you're available, what you want to do. You set your goals, and they will help you meet them, keeping you on track. It's really high quality stuff, certified by independent third parties as being high quality, so you don't have to just take my word for it. Their great lab platform, which I think is really the killer app of this thing, is that they allow you to run up to 4 different virtual machines in Amazon's infrastructure, so they're lightning fast and highly reliable. You can run 4 of them simultaneously. They can communicate with each other and with the real world, so you can really have a safe place to explore and play. And you get all this for as much as, I don't even want to say as little as much as $29 a month, because that's their top price. $29 a month for all that sort of stuff you added. Now, once you go in, like so many other things, there's in-app purchases. There are certain courses, certain labs, certain things like that you could pay extra for. But all the basic, all-you-can-eat buffet of learning is $29 a month. But like anything else, if you buy more, you pay less. If you buy 3 months, a quarter, that's $69 for that. Or if you buy annually, it's $229, which is less than $19 a month. $20 a month for something that could potentially change your life, I don't think that's too much to ask. But don't take my word for it. Don't go buy plunk down $200 for a year because Mark said so. Go try it out. Spend $29. Risk that. Gamble that much. It's half the cost of a AAA video game, so you're okay. You can probably afford it, and spend a month around on it, looking around, see what you think. If you don't like it, walk away. No harm, no foul. But I'm pretty sure you are going to like it. So check them out and stick around. And once you're ready, commit to that annual code or annual fee and save a chunk of money. There's my first show on the web was called The Tightwad Tech. I'm all about saving you money. And the way to do that is to buy in bulk. LinuxAcademy.com. Use the code EverydayLinux when you get there. And everything I just said about pricing is bunk, because you get special pricing when you use that. And hint, it's lower So check it out, linuxacademy.com. Use the code EverydayLinux. Let them know we sent you.
And with that, we have fun.
So now let's move on to our topic, and this is first. Let's just begin the show. Let's dash some illusions right here off the bat. Tang was not invented by or for NASA, despite what you may think. It just wasn't. General Foods had already developed it in 1957. Had been on the supermarket shelves since 1959. People were using it, not very much. But it's a freeze-dried liquid, right? Just add water. So when John Glenn went into space, and for the first time, because the first several trips into space weren't long enough that you need to eat something, and they weren't even sure that you would be able to. So this was all virgin territory. We didn't know anything. So they figured, can a guy swallow in zero-G? We didn't know. So they sent him up there with some Tang, and it became known as the food of astronauts. And kids all around have been drinking it because of that. Not because of the flavor, mind you, because the astronauts do.
Well, we might as well. If it's good enough for the astronauts, it's good enough for you. At least that's what my family would say.
Yeah, when I found this out, I was just ready to quit because I was like, you get Tang because of space. And then whenever I came around, I was like, oh man, I'm done. Y'all take the rest of the show.
But, at least you can fall back on the fact and know that NASA invented Velcro, except that they didn't.
Oh, not another one.
You're killing me.
DuPont invented, that was the other. Velcro was used during the Apollo missions early on, but it was actually a Swiss invention from the 1940s. It was invented by a botanist who was studying burrs in nature and noticed that the burrs had a certain hook shape, and that they would attach to anything with anything vaguely resembling a loop. Hence, it's known in the generic circles as hook and loop. But in a weightless environment where you can't just lay your pen down on the desk and expect it to stay there, Velcro was all over the place. And in fact, it was considered a serious contributor to the demise of Apollo 1 that blew up in testing. Not blew up, because Velcro is flammable, and there was a lot of it all over the place.
I did not know that one. That's a good one.
But at least we can rest assured knowing that NASA invented Teflon, right?
I think so. No.
DuPont invented Teflon all the way back in 1938. But the space agency used it on their heat shields and their spacesuits and their cargo liners and all that sort of stuff. And it became associated with NASA, but not invented because of NASA.
Man. I found the same. What was interesting when we started this whole process and we were looking up things for this show, it's amazing how much stuff is attributed to NASA, but actually isn't.
Yeah, I guess it's the other. It's good to have. That's the reverse problem, right? You get credit for doing stuff you didn't do, as opposed to get blamed for doing stuff you didn't do. But this is such a murky area that NASA actually keeps their own list at spinoff.nasa.gov. where they tell you the things that they either directly invented or indirectly invented.
Yeah, and and it's a lot like they didn't invent them, but they made them famous to the American public in much the same way that Apple did not invent the MP3 player, but they took it and they developed it and made it famous. So, yeah, it was just one of those things. So, they didn't invent it, but they helped introduce it to us. Ooh, look at that. We want that because the spaceman had it.
Yes. So let's go straight to NASA's website and see what they did invent. They invented LEDs, except that they didn't. They made them better. LEDs, the little lights that are everywhere. If you've ever taken a picture with a flash on a smartphone, there was an LED there. And by the way, the guy that made the white LED possible won the Nobel Prize for Science a few years ago, because that was some serious physics to make white LEDs.
That surprised me when I saw that one too, and I was like, wow. Why would white light be so hard to make? But yeah, when I continued reading and went, oh, yeah, that's tough.
Yeah, because generating light is an additive process rather than a subtractive process, and it's difficult to add because you tend to get black when you add But anyway, back to NASA. NASA made red, particularly the red LEDs, a lot more powerful, a lot more intense. And actually, you can now go have toenail fungus treated using LEDs. You can have arthritis treated using LEDs. They're essentially low-powered lasers these days. A new device that they helped with Quantum Devices Incorporated called the Warp 10. So you can have less toenail fungus thanks to space exploration.
Ew. But yay. Toenail fungus, not my idea of a good topic.
If you've ever checked your baby's temperature without the aid of an infrared ear thermometer, you know what a godsend the infrared ear thermometers are.
Yes.
Because the only other way to do it with a kid is to stick something up the butt. Plain and simple. Because you can't get them to hold something under their tongue for 2 minutes.
Exactly.
That's true.
But due to NASA's actually their I just blanked on what it was. It was something I just read about very recently. Their project to detect space collisions of pulsars needed infrared sensors, and so their development of that goes directly into their the infrared. All the way back in 1991 was when they directly worked with the Diatec Corporation. Fun
Cool.
stuff. Microwaves, we all know that, right?
No, I knew they didn't do that one.
Darn it.
So
But that's from the Air Force.
yeah, and that came about as a result of World War II developing radar, and the guy noticed when he walked by the radar thing that the chocolate bar in his pocket would melt, and that's why the original microwaves were called radar ranges. So
All right.
That's a good tidbit.
yeah, sorry, that's because that's trivia, so I know it because it's trivial.
All right, so guys, I just picked a couple of their. You picked some that you. But one of my favorites. Before I do that, I just invited you and then shut you down. NASA has been working for years since the early space stations and the space shuttles with developing robotic arms that can manipulate stuff in space. Well, when you developed a robotic arm, why not stick it on somebody who doesn't have an arm? And so, yes, many artificial limbs directly use NASA's technology, just miniaturized. That was one
Cool.
of my favorites. So what did you guys have?
Go ahead, Chris.
Meaning, I wasn't ready.
No, I have a couple. I'll go, Chris, if you're not ready. They found that through studying algae that there's chemicals in algae, amino acids that help and are beneficial to the human body. So they enriched baby food that has additional amino acids came about as a result of NASA's sponsored research to explore the possibility of algae as a recycling agent for long duration space travel. I thought that was super cool whenever I came across that.
Yeah. Another cool thing is some of the de-icing stuff that we use on commercial airliners was invented because NASA handles really cold stuff, and sometimes they need to de-ice things that used to hold really cold stuff.
And speaking of really cold stuff, the freeze-drying food, they were looking at it as a way to store food for the Apollo mission, and they realized that if they could freeze-dry it, it would still retain like 98% of its nutrition, but it only weighs 20% as much as it did before. So
Water's heavy. 8
yeah,
pounds per gallon.
and because of they're able to recycle the water and purify it and stuff, you don't need as much water for all this food because you're going to reuse it over and over again. So freeze-drying food, we can thank NASA for that.
Very cool. And if you've ever been to a space center, you have the opportunity to try some freeze-dried stuff. It all tastes pretty bad, but you don't go into space for the cuisine.
Well, it's a way to store food. I mean, if you freeze dry it, then you really don't need specialized storage conditions for
Right.
it. So you can keep it. You don't need a freezer because you've already freeze dried it. So you can store that food in a much smaller place, and if things get bad, you can always boil water at the house to remove things and then rehydrate your food that way. And speaking of water, another thing is I don't think you could say they invented water purification, but they darn sure did a great job in perfecting it and making it better and being able to remove more stuff out of the water. And again, it goes back because water's heavy, and imagine having to take water to drink and everything, whereas if you can just keep recycling it, that's pretty cool.
In the modern systems that they use, in the early solid rocket systems, that was a real issue. You had to get enough water up there, you had to carry it with you, you had to recycle it. The modern liquid rocket systems burn with a combination of hydrogen and oxygen, and water is actually a byproduct. They end up dumping water because they have too much of it. So it's one of those things where the pendulum has swung all the way back in the other direction.
Yep.
Some of the other thing that's kind of cool is the structural analysis that they had to improve in order for us to have, spaceships and this. It's just interesting to see all the different things that they've improved there.
Yep. If you love a firefighter, he probably has gone into a fire and come out directly due to NASA. If you've seen a lot of a modern firefighter in their full gear, they look a lot like astronauts, and there's a reason for that. They're using a lot of the hostile environments that astronauts have to go into are both very hot and very cold, and the way to keep heat on either side, whether you're trying to keep somebody warm or keep somebody cold, is the same way. You want to keep heat from penetrating a device or an article of clothing, and also some of the rebreathers that firefighters use now. NASA has directly worked with various organizations to make firefighters safer, going all the way back to 1976.
Wow.
If you sleep on a Tempur foam bed or pillow, I have a memory foam pillow that was directly that NASA invented that. That's one that you can give credit for NASA inventing. Working with the Ames Research Center, developed a foam that could remember its position, no matter how deformed it got. It would always go back to its original position. And when you're pulling 12 Gs on liftoff, you need a cushion that can absorb all of that, but also that will go back to its normal shape so that you can reuse it the next time. So memory foam, NASA, circa 2005, actually began all the way back in 1976. Crazy.
That is
Yeah,
nuts.
and another thing.
What about the
did
portable dust busters?
Yes, that's a good one. Go ahead and talk about that, Chris.
Well,
Oh, we seem to have lost Chris. So while he comes back, I will tell you that NASA needed small motors, small powerful motors for some of their
in order to
stuff.
help.
No, he still doesn't know he's gone yet. Really small and powerful motors, and when they for their drill bits, actually for mining rock samples and things like that, they needed lightweight, powerful motors that didn't use much energy for their drill bits back in 1980 or so. And Black & Decker said, "Hey, I've got another use for those things that use low power, lightweight. Let's put it in a handheld vacuum." So that Dustbuster literally came directly from the space program. You back now, Chris? No, he's still not back. Okay.
Okay, am I still here, Mark? Can you hear me?
Yes, you are. Go right ahead.
Okay. Powdered lubricants. We don't think about that because, we drive a car and it has oil and stuff, but when you're dealing with the extreme temperatures in space, even those lubricants would freeze. So they developed and refined powdered lubricants to keep gears and stuff moving in the frozen lack of atmosphere or super thin atmosphere in space.
Yeah, and you can't get much more American than the Statue of Liberty, and NASA indirectly saved Lady Liberty by developing their anti-corrosion things. Again, they deal with some pretty nasty stuff, and they need to hold the nasty stuff in containers, and so they had to find ways to combat corrosion. And one of the chemicals that they used to create the anti-corrosion coatings was used in the restoration of Lady Liberty back in the 80s, I believe it was. I've lost where it was, but she is now coated with NASA goop.
Nothing better than NASA goop to keep your Statue of Liberty better.
It says that it's a zinc silicate which readily bonds with steel, dries within 30 minutes to a hard ceramic-like finish, and it's used on bridges and pipelines and oil rigs and dock equipment and Lady Liberty, and including U.S. Army tanks, because they work in deserts, and deserts are not really friendly places for metals.
Right.
What else we got, guys?
Well, I have the last link. I don't know if you guys, I'm sure you guys have seen this one, but it's not quite NASA, but it's kind of a space thing. I didn't realize that we share the Goldilocks zone with a orbital asteroid.
Yes, so something could theoretically live on that. It's not big enough to have atmosphere. That's sort of a problem.
Right, but it's in the Goldilocks zone. It sits in the same orbit as we do, as far as distance from the sun.
So then that would make it, we might not have atmosphere, but we could like dome it or hollow it out, and we could like live in it. So
Yep.
Yay.
So there was, I can't remember the name of it. It's something like the rare earth hypothesis, something to that effect. That says that in order for Earth-like life to exist, you need certain things. You need, for example, an asteroid belt, the Kuiper belt, to shield most asteroids from ever getting to you. You need to be in that Goldilocks zone where the temperature is just right so that water is liquid, and that's actually pretty rare in our exploration of space. You need a giant moon that can absorb most impacts, but without being so big that it impacts or so small that it spins off. So all of these things need to happen to have Earth-like life on a planet. And it seems rare until you factor in the fact that we have observed billions of different sun-like stars, and if even a 10% of those have one Earth-like planet, then the odds of life being there mathematically grow pretty consistently, but not so much that it's not considered still pretty rare.
Yeah.
And that's what that Goldilocks zone is about. It's not too hot, it's not too cold. It's
just right.
Anything else you guys wanted to hit? We've got tons of links from all sorts of different stuff, but any highlights you wanted to hit? I want to hit this last one, but before we do that, did we miss anything?
No, I think we got the rest of them pretty well.
Yeah. Well, no. I mean, one thing, the NASA gets a budget of billions of dollars from the federal government, and one of the neat ways they contribute back is when they were trying to figure out how can we feed an astronaut in a sealed capsule in weightless conditions and not do crumbs and make sure the food doesn't spoil. So they came up with a hazard analysis and critical control point concept that Pillsbury actually uses to help make sure the food they produce is safe and free of killer bacteria from space or just from around the world. So the system, they didn't really invent processes, but they came up with a process to ensure that the food for the astronauts is good. And Pillsbury said, that's a great process, and it would be good just so we can make sure the food that we sell is safer.
Yeah.
Yeah, cool.
And along the cooking line, something that's cool but not really practical is they figured out a way to combine a refrigerator and an oven so that you can stick your turkey in the refrigerator over the night before Thanksgiving and use a timer to turn it from a refrigerator to an oven so that it cooks for you, so that you don't have to get up at 4 o'clock in the morning and throw that 20-pound bird in.
Wow, that's kind of cool. I want one.
Yeah, they're just super expensive, but they exist.
Right.
Since 2005, a company called Embed Web Technology invented the device. So I remember reading an article about that back probably around 2005, 2006. It was one of those, Discovery Channel future kitchen kind of thing, and that was a thing. And there are like portable coolers now that are both warmers and coolers that they plug into your cigarette lighter.
Yep.
So the technology has been miniaturized. But this used advanced sensors and remote control devices. It was really one of the first Internet of Things devices.
Interesting.
Now, space exploration costs a lot of money, but we get a lot of benefit from it. Every one of us listening to this podcast has a cell phone. There's a good chance you're listening to it on a cell phone. Those cellular networks came directly from the need to reliably communicate across vast distances, and they are connected by way of satellites, big machines up in space. They wouldn't be there were it not for space exploration. So I'm not saying that we need to spend lots of government money on space exploration, but I am saying that space exploration is important and must go on.
Yep.
But if all of that wasn't... Oh, go ahead, Seth.
I was going to say, I think it would be cool for us to actually put a person on a planet and bring them back. I just think that would be cool.
Well, we haven't done it on a planet. We've done it on a moon.
Once.
That worked out pretty well.
Before I was born.
Yeah.
It'd be cool to put somebody up there again. I think we should at least revisit it.
Yeah, the thing is, what we got was a bunch of rocks. And the American public, all they saw was billion-dollar rocks. They didn't see refrigerator ovens and powdered lubricants and Velcro. They saw rocks.
I would like us, even if it's going to be to the moon, to put somebody on the moon and then have a second mission to go pick that person up.
Let them hang out there for a while instead of a
Yeah.
return vehicle.
Yeah.
That'd be kind of neat. It'd be interesting
Because
to
if
see
we're
what
going to
happens.
colonize anything, Mars or anything, we're going to have to do that. We're going to have to drop people off and have them
Yep.
survive for a while on their own.
Well, and plus the moon would make a great staging base because its atmosphere and its gravity is less, so it would take less power to get off the moon.
One of the early plans in the space race of the 70s, or the 60s rather, was to throw a guy up there with no plan to bring him back and hope that he could survive long enough that we could figure out how to get him back. And every month or so, we would throw supplies up there, food and oxygen, and he would just stay there as long as it took for us to figure out how to get him back. That way we could beat the Russians to the moon that much quicker.
That's an interesting thought there.
It's a good idea if you're an engineer, because engineers see ones and zeros. But and there probably would have been no shortage of volunteers. I mean, there are people right now who are volunteering for one-way trips to Mars just for the trip to get there. The problem with getting to Mars is right now we couldn't get you there without cancer because we don't have good radiation shielding.
Right.
Yep. There's no ways that would help you out there.
Yeah. So one good way to protect people from radiation is to surround them by a liquid atmosphere. Yeah, all the thing we just talked about with carrying water into space, that's hard. So it's one of those things that we've got to figure out. And we live in a fairly radiation dense environment called the Van Allen belt. In fact, when you go from the Earth to the moon, you pass through chunks of the Van Allen belt depending on the different times of the orbit. So it's there, and you got to deal with it. And in fact, people who are up in space now are dealing with it, but we don't leave people there for 5-6 years, which is what it would take at current abilities to get people to Mars. And the way the Mars orbits work out, you wouldn't be passing through it. You'd be stuck in it or passing through it multiple times. Somebody is right now writing an email or typing into the Zcast app telling me how wrong I am. Bring it on.
But that's
I
all
never
right.
said I was a scientist.
Send
I'm
it.
I'm a science enthusiast. But if all of these other things don't encourage you and tell you that NASA is worth your time and your money, NASA has been helping geeks get dates since 1997. Yep, that's right. The artificially intelligent computer software that NASA developed in 1997 to control the shuttle's rocket engines has been used in online dating services since 2000.
That's wow.
And what happened was this engineer came up with this AI to get a date and then had to figure out some way to justify it. So they thought, oh, this is kind of similar. So that's probably what really happened if we could go behind the news.
Yeah, what was the movie Sneakers with
Yep.
Robert Redford? The line in that makes the villain realize that it's all a rig, is that a computer would never put that guy with that girl together.
Yep.
Wasn't that Ben Kingsley that said that?
Yes. But great movie.
Great
Go
movie.
check it out. Ben
Yes.
Kingsley at his best. Robert Redford at his best. Just really.
Dan Aykroyd was great in that. Everybody was great in that movie. Go watch it.
Yeah. Sneakers. Too Many Secrets. C-Tech Astronomy. Go check it out.
Yeah, Sneakers is one of my all-time favorite guilty pleasure movies because no one's
Yeah,
ever heard of it.
It doesn't survive time well. I mean, you look at anything that deals with technology doesn't survive time well. The best way to make sure a movie doesn't survive the test of time is to show a computer or a machine in it. You know, you look at The Matrix now, right, and it's so 1999. You look at I was watching an old episode of MacGyver, and there was this giant television wrapped in a plastic casing with a typewriter next to it. And my kid said, "Daddy, what's that?" That's a computer. What? Yes, that's a computer. No, it isn't. Yes, honey, that's a computer.
What's fun is if you go back and watch even the horrible movies for technology, though, going on way off on a tangent. The Net.
Oh, yes.
Sandra Bullock.
Yep.
Once she said the word modem, I was over. You know, you don't call it a modem. I was done.
But that's another one that never will stand the test of time. Or Swordfish, both of those are great fun. A logic bomb, yay, through the trapdoor.
And of course, modem actually makes more sense because it's a contraction of modulator demodulator.
Uh-huh.
But nobody actually calls it a modem except Sandra Bullock in The Net.
But I would change. I would say modem just for her because she's worth the change.
That's a woman who has maintained her appeal far longer than many women do.
Yes.
Yep.
All right, so let's look at some recent tech news. Raspberry Pi, the new $5 processor, super cool. What's it called? I'm blanking on what it's called. The Pi Zero.
Pi Zero. Yeah, no, I came across this. They made 20,000. I don't know why they make these tiny numbers. It's basically the specs of the first generation Pi, but with a faster processor, and it's a single board. It's smaller. It's like about half the size of a credit card, and it sells for £4 or $5. It's sold out in less than 24 hours. So if you can find, some stores sell British magazines, like I know Fry's does a lot. If you could find the Magpie, they had a Raspberry Pi on them. Or you can go to eBay and pay some troll a lot of money, or you can just wait because they're going to be making more. But $5 and it's sold out in less than 24 hours.
So like the original Raspberry Pi, all you get is the board, right? It doesn't have any storage, doesn't have any power, doesn't have any display, so you can't get a computer for $5. But you can get a computer for like $35 once you put it all together.
Right.
So a phone charger and an SD card and whatever old TV you have laying around and a keyboard, and boom, you're done. Super exciting because this just brings the tinkerer market. I mean, we've talked about before how refrigerators are now smarter than computers used to be. Well, now at $5 a board, there's no reason not to put this in your refrigerator. Right,
yeah,
and it's
no
a
kidding.
full. It's got a TCP/IP stack. It's got everything you need. It's got everything you could need in a fully functional ARM processor for $5. And if they're selling it for $5 at a profit, right? So you could probably buy those in bulk if you're bought in the tens of thousands of hundreds of thousands down to a couple of bucks.
Yeah, that would be some pretty cool tech that you could put into just about everything.
Yeah, your self-lacing sneakers that they promised us in Back to the Future 2 could actually be Raspberry Pi powered.
There you go. I'll just slap my pie or my banana and have it auto-tie my shoes.
Cool stuff. Exciting sort of stuff that's going on out there. And let me tell you something else I'm excited about. That's our friends over at DigitalOcean. I'm excited about them because they provide you good stuff at a low price. And those are the sort of things I get excited about. Virtual server hosting running on KVM on super high machines. And KVM is a big deal because there are lots of virtualizers out there. But KVM was one of the first ones to really focus on performance. And they got it right. And they're Linux-based. And guess what? This show has the word Linux in the title, so we kind of pretend to care about it a little bit. Their servers are all running on hex-core processors with dedicated ECC RAM and SSD storage. Now, all that is geek speak for their fast, meaning you could spin up a new server, a droplet, a virtual machine, in less than a minute. They've all got gigabit NICs built in. They've got private networking available. And for $5 a month, $5 a month, you can get a virtual server with 512 megs of RAM, a single-core processor, 20 gigs of SSD space, and a terabyte of transfer for $5 a month. That's actually kind of a big deal. Chris pays way more than $5 a month for way less than a terabyte of transfer to his house.
Definitely.
So that's their basic $5 one, and that's fine for a basic blog, for a website, for your bridge club wants to run a website, your dog walking service. $5 a month will get you set up for very basic needs. If you need to move up into something that you might actually want to put some horsepower behind, the price really goes up to $10. There you get a gig of RAM and a single core processor, 30 gigs of storage, and 2 terabytes transferred. These prices are, I feel like I'm, the Mad Max's used car emporium. These prices won't last long. Really, $10 a month for your own server, not shared hosting, your own server. It's a virtual server, but it's yours. You can do whatever you want to on it. You don't have to beg some guy to edit the php.ini file for you. If you want to stick something on, you want to put a GUI on your server, go for it. You can do it because it's yours. And they go on all the way up. If you want to do something way more professional, they go up. You can spend $360 a month for a big beefy a piece of iron. But for your basic guy running your basic blog, the $5 or $10 a month thing is going to be fine. And it's not even going to cost you that, because if you use the code Everyday Linux when you sign up, they're going to give you $10 of credit. So let me do some quick math there. $10 of credit, $5 a month. I'm pretty sure that's 2 months free. You can check this out. You can kick the tires. You can do whatever you want. You can bang on it. You can own your own server. You can be a server guy. Take the knowledge that the linuxacademy.com gave you and test it out here and build your own server free for 2 months by using the code Everyday Linux when you sign up. We're excited about them. I'm glad that they chose to sponsor us because they're good people. They do good stuff, and they're cheap. All of those things I like. DigitalOcean.com. Use the code Everyday Linux when you sign up.
There you go.
Hey, kid, want to serve? That would be a great commercial.
Would you like to buy any? So next up, the Software Freedom Conservancy needs your help.
Yeah, they started a fundraiser. They kicked it off this week. They thought everybody's spending money on Black Friday. Maybe we can spend money to support open software. Basically they're a lot like the EFF. It's just another group that's kind of doing the same thing. Because they don't, they're not making software, they're not selling software. I think you can buy some T-shirts if you want it. They rely on donations and supports. So, a lot like a public radio would. And so they do things like, if you heard about that lawsuit brought against VMware because they were using the GPL but not giving back, so they were involved in that. And one thing they do is they made 172 contractor payments to developers writing free and open source software, and this included like internships and contract software development work. So people who write free and open source software, this is one way that they can kind of get paid. They take and they support specific projects. The more money they have, the more projects they can support, kind of thing. So Mark, we need to put this on our list because I think a cool thing to do, like a 1 month give to them. So anyway, the Software Freedom Conservancy is looking for cash to support free and open source software. And if you would like to support free and open source software, the link will be in the show notes, and you can see if it's something you would be interested in.
Just did. That is
Sweet.
Our November donation for Everyday Linux. So you helped me contribute to this money. That doesn't to this organization. That doesn't mean you're done. You still need to go do your own, but you just helped out.
Yeah, and it looks like, and at least at the time of recording, they have a anonymous backer who's doing matching. So I don't know when. It doesn't say what date it says before next Friday, but it doesn't say an actual date. But it'd be interesting to see how much we can make that match donor donate in.
Yeah, that wasn't there before, so that's kind of a recent development.
Right, and so I've been saying for a long time that we need people like this. We need programmers got to eat, right? And they're not going to work on free software if they can't get paid for it, if they can't support their family on it. So we need people that do that, and the Software Freedom Conservancy is doing that very thing. And more power to you. That's great. You know what's not great? I don't know how to. I was just trying to come up with something. DDWRT is sometimes not Linuxy enough.
Yes, so Linuxy, that's my word. I came up with that. So there is a Kickstarter program to make a Linux base, and they're basing it on OpenWRT, and have just a full freaking blown router called the Taurus Omnia. 1.6 gigahertz dual-core ARM processor, a gigabyte of DDR3 RAM, 4 gigs of flash storage, 5 gig ports, and 1 gig WAN port, USB 3 ports, mini PCI Express ports, SATA Express SIM card slot, and pin headers. So just in case you want to get freaky with your router. So,
Wow.
This could be, you could have like a DMZ. This could be a web-enabled NAS. Lots of things you could do with this if you want to have something more than, whatever off-the-shelf kind of thing you get from Linux or ASUS, and you don't want to take the time to do DDWRT yourself. You're going to pay for it. It's not a $5 blue Linksys box, but if you get a good AC router today, it's in that ballpark price range. Ooh. So that's about how much they cost for good ones today. So you're paying maybe a little bit of a premium, but not super much. The Taurus Omnia, if you want to get super Linuxy with your gateway connected device.
And this is an Indiegogo campaign. I'm
is Indiegogo?
Correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure that Indiegogo, you get the money whether you deliver the product or not.
Correct.
So it's not like Kickstarter where they say you have to have the product, you have to have a prototype. Indiegogo is a little more loose. I don't know that that's good or bad. I'm just telling you it's a thing. So right now, 189 USD will get you this thing, and I paid about that for my Buffalo router, right around in that range. And yeah, I would be totally fine with paying that for this piece of product. I really would.
Yeah, because the specs on this, this is computer specs running router software. It's not router specs running router software. But, here's the thing. They've already got over 3 times their fixed goal. So I don't think they're going to pull a holla out and take your money and run. But I think it's already, it's going to happen. It's just, do you want to get in on it and, because they said this is a 33% off the retail price. So it's probably going to retail for about $250, which for an end-user router, that's a bit much. But when you look at the gateway technology this was designed to be, it's still, that's not ridiculously expensive, said the biggest cheapskate you're ever going to talk to.
Yeah, I don't know what the shipping from the EU is going to be to the U.S. So, but you're probably going to, because there's going to be some value-added tax and there's going to be some customs. So it's probably going to be over 200 by the time you get it. But that is not out of line for a high-end router. It really isn't.
For a basic route, for a router, yeah. It's different. This is going to be a little bit different than someone who's running like a pfSense or any of those higher-end big irons. It's just still a beige box with antennas sticking out of it. So,
but you could run that off of this. You
yes.
don't need a second box to run that off of.
Yeah, well, I'm not saying that. I'm just making sure that anyone who's listening knows that this is not a beige box that that's running a computer with a software such as pfSense or any of those firewall distributions, Untangled, etc. This is more like your Buffalo routers or Linksys boxes, but with much better specs.
Yeah, and they offer one that is without Wi-Fi, so you could this could be whatever. But anyway, there's different options there. You can kind of scroll down and take a look at it if you're interested.
It's definitely interesting. The project is definitely. It looks like they got everything figured out as far as the specs go, and as far as I'm reading down here, all these different options that they're offering. And there's a lot of people a lot of big companies talking about them. When you look down about, Tom's Hardware is on their list of places that have actually worked on, or taken a look at their products. So I don't think they're going to pull away and take the money and run. But this is definitely, if you don't want to deal with Open or Untangle or any of those high-end firewall unified threat systems, this would definitely be for you.
Yeah, and the Buffalo router that I run runs DDWRT, and it's got issues, and it's not actively developed enough for somebody who needs updates. There are updates, but they're slow and they're often buggy. It's experimental software, and I don't know about this one. I worry that this will be the same thing, that it's going to be firmware that's out there, and it's going to be not often updated. And so the nice thing about an Untangle or something like that you run on a box is it's software, and you can put any software you want on the box. And this is firmware, which is different. So I'll let you make your own decision. You're all big boys and girls, but this is definitely an experimenter's tool, and probably not something you want to plunk down at your small business and just hope for the best. At least not right away.
No, not until they've been around for a couple of years and they get their feet wet and to find out what they're going to do for updates. It is coming from the Czech Republic, so people might want to pay attention there. We don't know what type of software security they're going to go through to do their updates. So,
yeah, that's true. But at least it's not the NSA. It's whatever the Czech Republic's version is. So, you can, just because something's from America doesn't mean anything as far as security these days. It just means that you have one of the largest funded intelligence agencies has direct route to everything you own, versus this way they have to intercept it at the docks and screw with it and ship it to you in a reasonable time. That's the only difference.
So I've been looking at building a new Boris box on something much more high-end, like an Intel NUC or something like that. That's fanless and quiet and low power, and just hang some antennas off of it and some Ethernet ports off of it. You don't end up saving any money on that, but you can get what you want. Like I said, for many years I ran my Boris box off of just an old laptop, but it was sitting behind the router, behind the Wi-Fi. So the one I'm using right now is integrated Wi-Fi. I still haven't decided which of those I think is the better way to go. There's pros and cons to both. One of the downsides of running your Wi-Fi behind your firewall is that once they get to the Wi-Fi, they've already bypassed the firewall. Running it on the front side of it or integrated with it, you have a little more control. But I've been considering spending $350, $400 on a piece of hardware specifically to run my own box on it, and this may fill the need, but I'm not going to plunk down that on it until it's been proven a little bit. And something like pfSense or Untangle has been proven,
right?
And the hardware I could drop it on an Intel PC, and I've got proven hardware and proven software. So that's just, your mileage may vary. That's where I come down on it, though. But I'm glad things like this exist. I'm not convinced that the ARM architecture is the way to go. The best software I've seen runs on the i86 architecture, and the ARM stuff tends to be more limited.
It's usually the way it works. That's the way that architecture works.
Right.
Ooh.
But having said that, most of the big iron is moving to the ARM architecture. A lot of the Cisco stuff that's out there right now is all i86, but they're making a move to ARM because there's power benefits and things like that. So there are smart minds, way smarter than me, working on it. But I just don't think they're there yet. I mean, all of my old enterprise grade stuff ran like 386 and 486 processors. They're old architecture, but still the x86 architecture. No comments? Okay, so next story. It's been a year since Mozilla parted ways with Google, and they're still around, although every time I launch a blank page in Mozilla, I get a, hey, please give us some money message.
Yeah, I turned that off and I said, mine, show me none. But yeah, so, we know because, well, I mean, we've talked about it a lot. Everybody's talked about it a lot. Firefox, their developer company's Mozilla, and they generate like all, and not all, but almost all of their money off of sponsorship deals. In the past, it's been with Google, and Google paid them very well. But now, not so much. In America, it's Yahoo, and in other countries like Baidu in China, things like that. But in their 2014 financial report, it was just shy of $330 million in revenue, of which 98% came from search deals. And that was 2014, but so now it's not going to be Google, but it's probably going to be somewhere similar. So, yay, they didn't die when they left Google. So I guess that's a good thing.
Every time you open a new tab or a new page, you get an ad up there in the top left corner. So there's a deal being made with the devil somewhere.
I don't get an ad.
Well, you don't have the tabs open, probably.
Yeah, no. I went and said show blank page. So when I open a blank page, I get nothing but a blank page.
So you have yours set as not your top sites and include a suggested site. You have yours set to show just a blank page under your new tab
correct.
controls. Yep.
Yes.
And I like the most recent, most visited sites. Those are the things that I tend to go to, and they save me a click. But there's an ad there, and I've been on the record many times on this show saying I'm not anti-ads, but you start walking a line when you start making those kind of deals. Yeah. The best ads are the invisible ones, right? The referrals, the Amazon referral link, elementop.com/Amazon is invisible. It's there, and you're going there. You're using it because I recommended you, and you want to support me. But it doesn't change your experience at all. That's the way the Google thing was. It was invisible, but the invisible things don't pay as well because advertisers want visibility. So somebody's going to take their pound of flesh somewhere.
Yep.
All right. That wraps up our news. Seth, tell us what amazing thing in geek history happened this week.
All right. November the 27th, 1995, Browser War 1 commenced when Microsoft shipped IE 2.0. So that was BW1. BW2 kicked off years later when the remnants of Netscape launched Firefox 1. But the war to end all browser wars started when Microsoft released IE 2.0, and they got slaughtered in the early going because it's a far crappier product. And then they realized, hey, we've got a lot of money, let's just give this away and put our competitor out of business. And so eventually Microsoft won Browser War 1 because they just overwhelmed the competition because they had the coffers to fight and the other ones didn't. But people don't remember this. Like Netscape was like $70-$80, something like that.
There was a time when you went to the store and bought a shrink-wrapped box of software that had your browser in it.
And it was not cheap. It was very, very expensive. And this is back when money actually could buy you something. So it took a lot of that money to get you a thing to go look at. I mean, really, the web back then was nothing. Oh my gosh, it was nothing compared to today.
Yeah, that's true. And the reason that it had to be software in a box was because you couldn't download anything over a 14.4K modem.
Yep.
It would, it just didn't work that way. So this idea now of instant installation, that I was talking about a while back, where my kids don't know how to install software; they just click a button and it's there. There's so many infrastructure things that had to happen before that could be possible. And in this time, in 1995, you couldn't do that, and so you went to the store, and you bought software, and Microsoft started selling their product, and it was terrible, and they couldn't compete. So they started making it better, and by 3.0, they were pretty good at it. By 6.0, they were the best. They didn't stay that way long.
By 6.0, they had destroyed the competition. So, I mean, I could have had a browser out, and it would have been the second best. So,
Chris, sounds like there's a party going on over there.
Yeah, it's just my daughter having a blast outside my room.
All right, Seth. So your link of the week, your show closing spectacular, will also help you have a blast, maybe.
Yes. This is it's called Datebox. So getdatebox.com. Chris, this is like the, we've talked about other different box like the loot box and things like that.
Yep.
This is kind of a way to they once a month they send you out a box, and this would be great for couples to go, and you can have a date night with the stuff that comes in the box. Sometimes it's like a recipe on how to cook stuff, just different things. And I found this on a different website. So if you decide you want to do this, and you really should, you can type Stronger Marriages, all one word, no spaces, and get your first month free. So getdatebox.com, and put some effort into maintaining, you put effort into updating the software on your computer to keep it running good. You should put some effort into your relationship to keep it running good with your spouse. So, you do this, and then you're free for game night or whatever. So Datebox, getdatebox.com for your relationship survival needs.
The struggle is real. I've been married 21 years, and I have 3 kids, and we schedule dates 4 to 6 weeks out.
Yeah.
Because that's just what you have to do. To be carefree and 20 years old when I could look at my new bride and say, "Want to drive to Orlando tonight?" And she'd say, "Sure," and we'd go. That just doesn't happen when you're me. So a date, subscribing to this, see, this would actually be good for me because it would force me. But going back to the previously aforementioned tightwadness, if I'm paying for this, by golly, I'm going to use it, and it's going to force me to go on at least one date a month.
Well, that's not a bad thing either. Especially for the couples that when you're first starting out to get in the habit of spending that one-on-one time with your significant other. It's a cool way of doing it. I like the idea. I might have to see if the wife will sit down, and maybe we'll try a couple of months and see what happens.
So I had this grand idea a while back. I've got 3 daughters and a wife. That's 4 people. There's 4 Fridays in a month. So every Friday night, I would have a date with one of my girls. I'd have a daddy-daughter date, or I'd have a wife date, and on months with 5 Fridays, it would be a family date. It was such a neat idea. I think we got 2 of them, and stuff just fell in the way. You just can't do that when you got kids and activities and stuff. You just can't plan something every week as much as I wanted to. And I love my daddy-daughter dates, and I love my mommy-daddy dates. There's just no way I can do one a week right now. So we're struggling to do those sort of things because as a dad, that your daughters need some of that time to know that they're special. And it's something that it's important to do. And you've got to, as a dad, it's the way I see it, it's my job to show them how a date should treat them when they start dating, right? But it's really tough, and the struggle is real, people. So I'm all about this date box if it helps somebody. Thanks, Seth.
Yeah, I like it.
Yeah, I was trying to find something that comes on that tells you what is in it, and that is the.
There's a video that I can't watch right now, but otherwise,
the video just says, "Hey, you should do this. It's really awesome." So
yeah,
I haven't seen anything that tells you what it is.
I don't think it can show you, because then it wouldn't deal with it would show you, it would ruin the surprises. But they should have some examples listed on their site somewhere.
Okay, so here we go. Like a chef's culinary experience. Chef instructed video, recipe, and fresh ingredients. So that's one of them. And then so there you go.
And that's great. You just got to find a kitchen and someplace the kitchen that's clean, which is not mine ever, and someplace to keep your kids, and then you can do that.
Yeah.
Well, I mean,
And see what I would have to do for that, and I'm not saying I'm opposed to it. I would have to rent a hotel room with a kitchenette to be able to do that. Because my kitchen routinely has brownie bars and bits of homemade soap on the counter somewhere.
Sure. In my house currently has how to make crystal kits all over the house. So we're making sugar and salt crystals and
the grow your
copper.
own.
The copper crystals were the coolest though so far.
All right, I think we have rambled on long enough, actually far too long, so I will say this is the part of the show where I tell you how you can contact us. Go to elementop.com, click the Contact Us button at the top of the page. That presents you with a nice form to fill out that sends me an email that gets priority in my inbox. If you want to be like Andy and complain about Firefox, bring it on. If you would like your voice to appear right here alongside mine, dial 559-IAM-OP. That's our Google Voice voicemail. Nobody will answer that call. Just a friendly female robot. Leave a message, and we'll play it on the air. And we love hearing from you, even when you complain about me. I love those a little less, but still at least it means you cared enough to complain. Don't forget the Zcast app. You can now comment directly in that app, and I appreciate that, and that's super cool when you do. But as I say so many times, this is listener programmed radio. We do what you say, more or less, kind of, when we feel like it. Don't forget, the days are numbered for Everyday Linux. We have about 3 more after this one of this episode, of this show, and then Everyday Linux will cease to exist to be replaced by the Geek Rant podcast. Same show, more or less, different name. We're just going to, again, we're going to admit what we are not. We are not a Linux show. We haven't been for a long time, so we're just going to stop pretending. The show, your feed should stay the same, and I think we're going to keep the same numbering structure even. So the first episode of Geek Rant will be episode 221, because it's the internet. You can do whatever you want.
That's right.
So thanks for hanging out.
For that one too, by the way.
Okay, great. Thanks for hanging out with us. Thanks for listening. Give us a rating and a review in whatever, however you download and listen to podcasts. Tell other people about us. If you want to throw money at us, there's ways to do that on the website. Go to patreon.com. That would be awesome. In fact, I want to say I got an email from Captain Zero. I had said previously that we didn't care if you pledge a penny. Well, apparently there's been some changes to Patreon. You can't pledge a penny anymore. The minimum pledge is $1, but then you can go back and edit your dollar pledge down to a penny. So there you go. It's all about the numbers. I don't necessarily. Your money is nice, and I like it, but more than that, I just want to see a show of solidarity, and I want to show the world. And people often ask us, how many listeners do you have? When an advertiser comes to us and said, and those are hard numbers to come up. But if I can point to a Patreon page and say, go look for yourself, 3,000 people are supporting us, then that has value. So do that, please. Go to patreon.com, sign up. There's no hidden agenda there. You do have to give them a credit card. There is that, or a PayPal account, but they don't charge you unless you tell them that you can. And you can set the maximum. I haven't tried it, but I'm pretty sure you can set your maximum monthly at like a nickel. So if you pledge $1 an episode and we release 300 episodes in a month, you will still get charged a nickel. If you pledge to 500 people all $1 each, but your maximum is a nickel, you'll still get a nickel. That makes you kind of a troll. Don't do that. But I'm just telling you, if you're worried about the money, there are ways to not have to spend money and still sign up. I want you to spend your money. I want you to give me your money. But more than that, I want you to give me your support. I want you to put your name on a document that says, I support the Element OP Productions. So please do that. Thanks for hanging out with us. I'm going to say that ends this episode of Everyday Linux.
Bye-bye.
Toodles.
So it wouldn't have mattered if the Skype thing had worked anyway, because my machine crashed at an hour and 14 minutes in and wouldn't have been able to use it.
And then my machine or my network, I don't know, was it my end or your guys' end? Because it was bad.
No, we were still good.
Yeah.
Just you.
Huh.
I gotta say, the audio was very comparable to Skype. I didn't really lose anything.
Yeah.
Well, you weren't on my side of the world.
It is the much better way to do it. Again, the auto switching works out. I don't have to mess with that. That's one less thing I have to do. It's a great tool. It really is. The broadcast quality, what you're hearing is less pristine than what you get on the broadcast. But really, it's all about it makes it easier for me. Well, it's not even easier. It's better because if something goes wrong with your local recording, I have multi-track local recording here, and I can't do multi-track local recording with Hangouts. That's the only reason we don't do Hangouts just all the time. Now,
Yeah.
Door Geek on the Android App Addicts podcast, we just do everything with Hangouts, and we have a double ender. And if something works, that doesn't work, we don't get a show. And he's comfortable with that level of risk. I'm not.
I just realized I never turned on my lamp. Bummer.
Yeah, you've been in shadow in the witness protection program.
Sorry.
All right, live viewers, thanks for hanging out with us. I'm cutting you off now. See ya.